Good morning, everybody. My name is Alain Fernandez, and I'm offset consultant, and I work with ADIT, and I am also a member of ECO. It's a European Association for Countertrade and Offset. So I would like to, I will give an introduction to offset, but if you want to know, but without daring posing, asking how to do offset, please join ECO and you will know everything you need to perform your offset obligation. Offset, first, a small definition. It's a form of direct or indirect economic compensation to counter the burden of a foreign purchase upon the acquiring government. It is a commitment. When you sign a contract for defense, usually in a country asking for offset, you are signing first an offset contract. The presentation will be available after. Give your name, and you will have the presentation. More than 100 countries apply offset, and every year, 1-2 additional one join the club. Outstanding obligation, these are figures taken from year 2020, but around the world, obligation, of course, you need to measure the obligation. It's not money, it's a measurement. This is very important when you do offset. You need to understand that when you explain that you have an obligation of 10 or 100 million, it is not money, it's measurement, okay? Like liters, like kilos. But more and more obligation worldwide and increasing. There is some tax drag on offset. 36 countries accounting for more than 25 world defense spending operate formal programs. And in other countries, sometimes you have no formal programs, but you need to consider the implication of local industry in order to win a contract. In defense industry and infrastructure industry, you cannot win a contract if you don't have a local partner with you. And this is not offset, but cooperation. It is part of the decision making. More and more countries asking offset. You have now, when you put a proposal on the table, the offset part is part of the decision. It is weighted. For example, in Turkey, it is weighted. Commercial proposal, a small some percentage, financial, technical, and offset. And you need to put a plan before the offset authority so they can weight your offset proposal. And of course, it's a changing world. One day you have some rules, the day after the rules have changed, especially in some countries like India. So offset, it's a moving target applied worldwide. What are offset and why offset? It's a benefit for the procuring government, for the country. Access to technology, improving foreign direct investment, easing the trade imbalances. It is a political ammunition vis-à-vis the local population. When you spend millions or billions in defense industry, you should tell your population that you will get in return some employment, some jobs. Improved debt position, of course, and countering the foreign currency of flows over a certain time. It can take various forms: program joint development, direct investment, facilitation of investment, transfer of technology, subcontracting, export facilitation, and anything that you can imagine, but within the rules. What are the factors shaping the offset policies? Various demographic, of course. A higher young population in the country. You need some training for this population and new jobs. International regulation, but you will see that offsets are not very fully regulated. It's rules by themselves. Education of people, national economic profile, political goal, buying power, of course, geographic policies and status of national industrial capabilities. More and more countries want local capabilities in the defense industry. So here you have some words to know. This is the vocabulary of offset. The threshold when offset will apply from 1 million to 10 million to 100 million, offset will apply. What are the quota for offset? Is it 30% of the contract value? Is it 50%, 100? In some countries, you could have more than 100. What kind of offset are available, are eligible? Is it direct offset or indirect? Direct means directly linked to the contract. Indirect, it's outside. And in the middle, you have semi-direct. You have penalties if you don't comply with offset. If you don't do offset, you will pay penalties. And sometimes it's free after the penalties, or you pay the penalties, but you have to perform the program. How long it takes to fulfill the offset? Do we have multipliers or coefficient? And is there any offset banking? All these are the rules of offset, and it may differ country by country. You will see nowadays more the offset rules worldwide are converging, but each country has its own rules. So here you have a global picture of offset. Well, mainly the main countries: India, Middle East, Brazil, and Southeast Asia countries. We will have a tour of offset now. North America, of course, in North America there is no offset. There is only the Buy American Act, which is if you are not localized in the US, you cannot sell to governmental, state, or municipalities. So it's not offset, it's local production. Here you have the legislation. In Canada also, you have offset, and it's it's 100%. It's direct or indirect. You have available offset banking. Foreign direct investment is authorized, and the fulfillment period is the period of a contract. And you have a threshold. In Canada, you have a local value is the most important point for fulfillment of offset. Here you have a program of a Canadian offset rules. European Union, no offset. Of course, it's banned. But offset, this rule apply to members of the European Union, state members. So they cannot ask for offset. But of course, companies can have cooperation for winning a contract. It's a kind of offset, but voluntary offset. There are some exceptions. to this ban on offset in the European Union. It's Article 346. Whereas a country with asking for some equipment can ask offset directly linked to the contract. Otherwise, it's out of the rules. I will pass on that. Gulf state, here all the country almost has some offset rules. Kuwait is now substandard. No more offset, but the old offset obligation must be fulfilled. The main countries are UAE and Saudi Arabia. Oman has also offset in Saudi offset rules. But the main country with, because Saudi Arabia and the UAE are among the main buyers of defense equipment, you will see in these two countries a lot of offset requirement. Here are the major rules. So Kuwait is substandard. Oman, the threshold. What you may do. Saudi Arabia, it's mainly now defense industry, and you have two main entities. GAMI, who is in charge of offset. It's a part of Ministry of Defense. And SAMI, who is a holding company in the defense industry. And outside, you may have also a private group you may use to fulfill your offset requirement. And the UAE, you have a threshold. Preference is for direct offset, but indirect offset you can do also. Southeast Asia. The main countries with offset are Malaysia and Indonesia. Other countries may have rules or legislation in the future, but does not apply formally offset. Main country are Malaysia. Malaysia very sophisticated offset rules, and you can certainly it's one of the best country in the world when applying offset for the development of a country, both in the civilian activities and the defense activities. So here you have a threshold, the quotas, direct or indirect, and eligible projects. And in Indonesia, even though you both direct and indirect can be performed, the preference in Indonesia is mainly defense project. Southeast Asia, the big player, of course, is India. And here it's a real moving target, because in India they change the rules almost every 2 years. And now the rules applying is at the date of the bid. And when you bid in India, you are awarded the contract 4, 5 years, 6 years later. But the rules applying at the date of the bid. So it's really something that needs to be clarified at the end of the day, because in my view, it's not working well in India. The latest rule in India is make in India. So you have to contract with, they will pass the main contract to a local company, and you have to cooperate with a local company in order to win the contract. This, and the main thing also is that the Indian government put a ban on imports of certain defense equipment, and the list, they add equipment by the day. So if you are not locally based or with a local partner, you will not sell your equipment anymore. So here are the overview of offset program in India and Pakistan. In Pakistan, it's mainly direct and local cooperation. South America, main countries with offset are Colombia and Peru, and you have also Bolivia with offset requirement in South America. In Brazil, you may be careful because you have sometimes tax laws interfering in your offset project also. So you need to be very, very careful when you do an offset transaction in Brazil, how the tax will apply or not to the offset transaction. Here you have the threshold, the quota, etc. on South America. And I think 2 years ago in Brazil, you needed to do offset per armed forces. The Navy, with a contract with the Navy, you do something with the Navy. Land forces, you do offset with land forces. Air forces, you do offset transaction with air forces. Now they put all together, and it's a main body inside of the Ministry of Defense with managing the offset for all the forces. Well, thank you very much. Now, question time, if you have any, and I will try to answer.
No question from the audience? May I have one? How do you see the future of offset? I would say right now, not in 5 years, in 10 years, because the current geopolitical situation has changed a lot of our point of views, and what kind of countries should implement offset regulations or legal framework in the following months, perhaps in 1 or 2 years maximum?
Thank you for this interesting question. Well, offset is growing. So you should not be shy about offset. It's something that you will face one day or another. You need to understand how it works, but it is something part of your life. If you are in the defense industry, it will split over in other domain. For example, in the civilian domain for infrastructure in South Africa, for example, offset apply to civilian procurement if it is done by the government, for example, civil aviation. In Saudi Arabia, offset applies to the civilian transaction also, for example, railway. So it is an expanding matter, and it is part of your business. And if you do it well, you should not see it as a constraint. As Jost yesterday from Rheinmetall, he said, is used to say that offset is not a constraint. It's not an obligation it is a commitment to satisfy your client. And a happy client will come back to you first. Unhappy client, they will ban you. Sure. So you should not be afraid about offset. You should handle it as a part of a contract and to perform offset as you perform the main contract. Now, how I see offset in 1, 2, 3 years and which country will apply, it's difficult to say. It should apply with country with the capabilities to perform offset, because sometimes some countries see offset as a magical tool for their development, but sometimes they don't have even the human resources locally to do it. So what will happen? You do an offset transaction, they ask you to employ local people, Saudization, and so on, but they don't have the capabilities, so you will recruit people outside the country. So the offset should be in line with the capabilities of the countries and with the expectation of the countries. And it's a tool for development, but you should ask offset what they can do only. You should also ask what the country can absorb as offset.
And other question, is there an obvious link between the corporate social responsibility? Could a company that apply to offset to obtain a governmental market, public tender, for instance, to put it on the list of its corporate social responsibility? And second question, is there a link between offset and the sustainability? And I think about since ECO is a member of the United Nations Global Compact, to reach its SDGs.
Well, you can use offset to fulfill part of your responsibilities for the development. For example, by doing training in the country and to associate the company with university or things like that for training people. You can also perform offset by developing investment in green activities. It is easy to say, it is not easy to be done. Why? Because it depends on the rules, of the offset rules. And sometimes the offset rules, you have very low multiplier, one or no more, when you are doing training. And if it is outside the defense, you have low multiplier also. So if you, I tried to did that. I was in charge of indirect offset in South Africa, and I tried to develop a green project, a very, very interesting green project. It was the retreatment of coal mountains. You know, you dig coal and you have a refusal of coal. And this is washed by the rain, so down the river. And when it is a hot weather, you have it is inflammable. You can have fire inside. So retreated this refusal would be very interesting. But you had to sell the new coal to a local and state-owned enterprises. So I went to see the DTI, the offset authority, and say, no, you can't do that. You can do that because you are using a state-owned company to do your offset. So it's not exportable because one of the rules is to do export. But you take bad coal to burn in the furnace locally and good quality coal to be exported. Very easy to understand. No.
Yes.
So, unfortunately, it was not done.
Thank you very much. To end this conference, just a little word about, so we introduced ECO, which is the European Club for Countertrade and Offsets. We also encourage your companies to become members in order to advocate in favor of countertrade and offsets everywhere in the world, but including vertically, because you understood that offsets were not the appanage of only big companies. Now it's a question that can be raised for SMEs. It was a question that we discussed in the past, including the conference of yesterday about the Indian offsets. We have also books to be sold, very interesting, very leaflet like for the French people, que sais-je, if you see if you have the reference. So just outside, we can provide you some information about the trainings that we organize locally, for instance, in Paris or online. We can also organize trainings in your companies or in your clusters, because clusters are more and more important, including to federate the SMEs. And we have a partnership with Eden Cluster, European Cluster for Defense. So feel free to contact us again, and we will be happy to see you in 2 years for Eurosatory 2024. Thank you.